We're glad to have our brother Casey Opitz exhort us this morning. He doesn't have a reading to share, but he did share the title of his remarks, and they are Pining. And I guess the subtitle would be, What Are You Longing For? So again, his subject is pining. Brother Casey.
Morning. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm giving the talk that I gave at Williamsburg this past year. And the theme that we used at Williamsburg was from the Christmas carol, O Holy Night. We took words or phrases from that first verse of O Holy Night, and we used it as a springboard for our morning sessions and our afternoon discussions. So Jacob is not prepared for everybody to sing along, but we have the first verse up here. He's going to play it. If you want to sing, go ahead. If not, just kind of follow it in your head along with the music, this first verse. All right, thanks, Jacob. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. Well, pining isn't a word that we use much anymore. If you're under the age of 18, raise your hand. Okay, now, keep your hand up, If you know what pining means, keep your hand up. Yeah, Walter, you're under 18, right? No, nobody under the age of 18, either you do or didn't, you knew I was going to call on you if you kept your hand up. Well, it means to long for something, to really, really want something or someone. There's a hint in the definition that we miss whatever it is, or we miss this person. Note that phrase in the verse. Long lay the world in sin and error, pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. Before Jesus' birth, Simeon was told somehow, this old man Simeon was told somehow that he would see the Messiah. Simeon was pining for his Savior. And when he saw the baby, ironically enough, as a baby walks down the aisle, when Simeon saw the baby, he said, "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and the glory of your people Israel." Simeon longed to see God's salvation. Well, salvation wasn't actually there yet, was it? But seeing that baby, he said he could now die in peace. Seeing the baby was enough. And then there was Anna, old woman, same place, same time, same situation. And she spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. I think we generally believe that means that they wanted to be relieved. The people, all the people who were looking for the redemption of Jerusalem, we tend to simplify that, I think, and say, well, that means they wanted to be relieved from the Romans. They wanted the Romans to go away. They wanted God to chase the Romans out somehow. But that in itself is probably too simple an explanation. You know, we run the risk when we read the Bible of making characters and motives really one-dimensional. But people then were just as complicated as we are today. There may have been many reasons people at the time of Jesus' birth were looking for the redemption of Jerusalem. So what is your greatest reason for wanting the Messiah to appear? Maybe you long for perfect justice in the world. The way people around the world suffer due to injustice and inhumanity and war and crushing poverty is just unfathomable. The Ukraine, Russia, Afghanistan, Iran, Kenya, Malawi, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, North Korea, Somalia, Yemen. Others suffer in ways that you may hardly even begin to be able to imagine. And many of us, to our shame, just turn the page or the channel. But maybe your natural empathy causes you to feel their pain. Psalm 72 says, "Endow the king with your justice, O God, with your justice. The royal son with your righteousness. May he judge the people with righteousness, your afflicted ones with justice." So maybe you, along with David, are pining for perfect justice. Maybe you long for the day when you or a loved one will be freed from mental or physical illness. Illness that can destroy lives and that can turn someone into a shell of who they were or who they could be. Illness that is a robber. It steals away someone's ability to live to their potential as a child of God. Illness that deeply affects themselves and those close to them. So it robs not only them, but it robs their families too. Illness in the life of a saint, whether it's their own illness or someone that they care about, is no accident. If you are affected, you have probably learned and you have probably grown. And you may not be finished learning and growing in God's eyes, and it may not be all about you. But still, you long for it to be over. You just want it to end. You look to the Syrophoenician woman whose daughter was plagued by a demon and who just wanted the crumbs from under the children's tables. You look to Legion, who was told, no, you stay here, go back to your family, and tell them all that I've done for you. You look to the father of the epileptic and you pray with him, I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. And you look to Jesus, who is compassionate. He's just as compassionate today as he was then, with infinitely more power. Maybe you pine for the day when mental and physical illness, great enemies, will be banished from the lives of God's children. Or maybe you pine for the day when righteousness will fill your life, when the righteous path to take will be clear, and your ability to follow that path will be straightforward and perfect. Today, the world is so full of gray. The challenges that face us are so complicated, and there can sometimes be no one clear right or wrong way to go. It is so often so hard to know what to do, what path to take. But even when the path is clear, we can't follow it anyway, because we're weak. Because though we love the law of righteousness, there's another law at work in our members. You want to think and to say and to do the right things, or you at least want to want that. So maybe you long for clarity and a righteous spirit, for the time when there will be no need for the sun, because God will give you light, and there will be no darkness, even in you. Maybe you pine for a pure heart. You have the obvious desire to stop sinning in thought and in action. But beyond that, you want to serve your brothers and sisters and family and neighbors as a perfect reflection of Jesus. You want to do the right things for the right reasons. But today, the purely right reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with you or with any selfish motivations at all, it just escapes you. Today, no matter what you choose to do for others, I believe there is invariably a selfish component to it. Will others see me? Will God see me? Will it make me happy? Will I feel better about myself for doing it? Or at the very least, can I be a martyr about it? Can I complain? I'll tell you a little story about myself, just to illustrate this, in case it isn't already abundantly clear. Every morning, I pray for the ability to see opportunities to serve that they'll just blaze out in front of me, and I'll see it, and I will then be able to reflect Jesus in some way. We live out in the woods on like 9 acres, and we belong to a community pool in a nearby neighborhood. And it was Saturday 2 weeks ago, and I was going out. I was driving down to a nearby park by the river to go for my Saturday morning run. And just as I was driving down, Becky's texting me, and I'm looking at my phone while driving. Bad. And she's saying that on Facebook, somebody in this community, in a community group on Facebook, is saying that can somebody help, because last night a fawn had been, we don't know exactly what happened, maybe hit by a car or something, and it was dying by the side of the road, and a policeman came, put the fawn out of its misery, but then it was left. And so now there's this dead fawn by the side of the road in the middle of this neighborhood. Can somebody please come take care of it? And you know, this was the night before, and so part of me is thinking, because it's 5 minutes after I've prayed, give me something I can do. And part of me is thinking I can do that. After my run, I'll go by and I'll do that because I'm in my truck. And part of me is thinking, man, I hope somebody else already took care of that. Well, they hadn't. I got there and I see this fawn, and I take a couple of deep breaths and I pick it up, put it in the back of my truck. And I took it home and I put it down in our woods. And the whole time my brain is doing two different things. Part of me is thinking, I'm glad I'm able to do this. And I don't want any recognition for this. But the other half of my brain is going, I hope somebody knows it was me. Maybe somebody will say something. I couldn't do it with absolutely pure motives. I couldn't just say, I want to get this fawn out of here so no children see it, and and I don't. It doesn't. Nobody needs to know that I did it. I wanted, and I didn't want somebody to know I did it. So anyway, that was a long story. And even me telling you that, there may have been a little piece of me thinking, I got to tell them that I took care of this. So maybe you long for a pure heart. Maybe you pine for the day when loving the Lord will come naturally. Today, there's competition for our love. Today, maybe the earthly things of this life have a hold on your affections. Hymn 270, which we don't know really well, but I've played it a few times, and after I was introduced to it, I really love the lyrics. And there's a verse in there, every verse starts, we would see Jesus. That's how my talk started, seeing Jesus. Hymn 270 begins, we would see Jesus, yet the Spirit lingers round the dear objects it has loved so long. And from earth, can scarce unclasp its fingers. Our love to thee scarce makes this love. Our love to thee scarce makes this love less strong. Let me just say that again, because it's so poetic. I'm sure you couldn't follow it. Try again. We would see Jesus, yet the Spirit lingers. My spirit lingers around these dear objects, these nothing things of the world that I have loved for so long. And earth, my dusty, dirty, earthly fingers, And earth, from these things of the world, can scarce unclasp its fingers. I can't let go. Our love for thee, Lord, my love for thee, Lord, scarce makes this other love less strong. So maybe you pine for the day when your love for God and for Jesus will know no limits, when competition for your love and attention will be gone. The day when that love for Jesus will fully eclipse any love for things of the dust. Maybe you long for that. Maybe you long for perfect peace. There's a proverb that says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. We know that's true, don't we? We are heartsick because we long for justice, or for healing, or for righteousness, or for a pure heart, for a natural pure love, or for perfect peace. We're heartsick because Jesus hasn't come yet. When we see him, our longing will be fulfilled, and the leaves of the tree of life will be for the healing of the nations. 2 Corinthians 5 says, meanwhile, we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed, we will not be found naked. That is, we will no longer be sick and unrighteous and unworthy and impure and lacking in love. For while we're in this tent, he means this earthly, dusty, dirty body, we groan and we're burdened because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. But until then, Jesus has come. He came as a baby, and that was enough for Simeon and Anna. And where is he today? What's he doing today? Isn't he our teacher and our priest and our king? And isn't he our friend? Doesn't he walk beside us? We're meant to live in hope and in faith, and we do. But as the proverb says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Are we meant to be heartsick? Or are we meant to see our hope fulfilled in our mind's eyes? Hebrews tells us that this cloud of witnesses we have before us, and it's interesting what happens when you just put the emphasis on different words, but this cloud of witnesses that were before us were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. They saw Jesus with the eye of faith. And so do we. I think this is what John means when he says, and you might turn there with me, the first letter of John. John 1, 1 John, sorry. He says, that which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes. Now, John is speaking literally there. Which we have looked upon, literally, and our hands have handled of the word of life. For the life was manifested, and we have seen it, and we bear witness, and show unto you that eternal life, which was with the Father, and was manifested unto us. That which we have seen and heard, again, literally, John saw and heard, that we declare unto you, that you also may have fellowship with us. And truly, our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. And these things we write unto you, that your joy may be full. Many were looking for the redemption of Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And when two of them saw that baby, it was enough. In Hebrews, it says this about these people. They were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Past tense. And in Ephesians, Paul says it is by grace you have been saved, and in Christ we have obtained an inheritance. So what can we see today that is enough? What can we see today that will allow us to know that even though Jesus has not yet returned so that every eye can see him, it's enough, and we can see him? The next verse of that same hymn begins, we would see Jesus. This is all we're needing. Strength, joy, and willingness come with the sight. And we can see him, can't we? We can see him in those he healed. We can see him in those he taught with such patience and love. We can see him on the cross. We can see him at God's side. And we can see him here in this room. Paul told Timothy, now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. We can see him today and have our longing satisfied in some measure today. But we can't even imagine how much more filled we will be on that day when all the world sees him for who he is. Long lay the world in sin and error, pining, till he appeared, and the soul felt its worth. Thank you.